when you see a bestseller take off, especially internationally, it's always like that. It's word of mouth, and one deal leads to another deal, leads to a bigger deal, and it just goes on, and it's a snowball effect, really. It's exactly how J.K. Rowling started, of course, classic example. Tiny, tiny little book deal that then just snowballed, got bigger and bigger and bigger, until at the time, and it's funny to think of this now, but at the time, they did the biggest children's deal in the US that had ever been done, and it was only $100,000.
Oh gosh!
But at the time,
yes.
it set a precedent,
yeah.
And because it was so big, relatively big, then everybody else in the publishing world, stuck their ears up and said, "Oh, we've got to get in on this too."
Yeah.
So that's really how things happen. Anyway, that's my excuse. What's yours?
Well, it's a bit like Christmas starting in the end of September. You have to prepare for the Frankfurt very, very much in advance. So all of August is really devoted to that sort of thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, traditionally, I think, you can't make as many generalizations about the publishing business as you used to be able to. But people used to kind of wind down a bit after Frankfurt, actually. Until December, it was pretty dead, really. I mean, very few deals to be done in December. Lots of parties to go to, but not that many deals. But that's not the case anymore. People are working all the time now.
Yeah.
All the time. It's partly really because, the function of book fairs they are symbolic now, really. They are symbolic. It's nice to see people from the other side of the world, but it's not essential. Because, you can email them. You've got an exciting project, send them an email. You don't have to wait 9 months until the next book fair.
Yeah, it's interesting that.
Yeah, it's a very medieval concept. Frankfurt and Leipzig is another one. Of course, big children's at where's the children's? Bologna. Yeah. And then New York is significant too. They have more and more sort of significant symbolic value, I should say, symbolic value than real value now. And very often you'll find that deals are announced at Frankfurt, allegedly done at Frankfurt, that actually been done well in advance, such as some of mine. So it's a little pretense, really, that we tell ourselves.
What about the smaller fairs, the more local fairs? Do you find that they're value?
There are smaller fairs. There's one I can't pronounce, actually. Is it Doha or is it? I can't. It's Saudi. That's coming up imminently. Yeah. As far as I'm concerned, it has no specific value at all.
Yeah.
Actually, but I've had authors go there and be the star of the show.
Yeah.
And it's nice for them, and I'm sure it does sell some books. But in terms of making the original raw underlying deal, it's not significant.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that what you're talking about are commercial fairs versus literary fairs where people have readings and.
Yeah. Oh, that's quite different. Yeah. That's quite different, actually. Yeah. Those are for the public. I mean, mostly, or book fairs have kind of tried to adapt a little bit to the reader, who, after all, is the most important person, but they haven't really. I mean, it's a deadly dull thing, I think, if you're just a reader to traipse around a book fair. I mean, all you're going to see is stands from publishers. You're not going to get any free samples. If you're a reader, they're not really interested in talking to you.
Because it's a commercial event.
Because it's commercial. Yeah. It's business to business. They're not really, they won't sort of, they won't give you the time of day, really. And the saddest thing of the lot, London Book Fair, for example, is, and I've seen this at London quite a lot, is when you see potential authors going. And they literally, you can recognise them because they've got a manuscript under their arm, and they'll walk go to Penguin Random House and say, "Can I please show you my manuscript?" And of course, there's no one there to see it, because it's all rights people.
It's not the editors.
Very few editors go.
Okay. Sometimes
they do just for a perk, or sometimes editors will actually do rights deals themselves. I mean, I've known that to happen, but mostly it's just it's business to business, and authors, unless you're specifically invited, don't go along, and don't think that you're going to do a deal, because you won't. I've got some notices. First of all, I want to say thank you very much, Chase, for your continuing support and encouragement in the chat room. Thank you very much for for helping us with that. Chase is inside the colony. If anyone's got any technical problems, he's the man. And I'm just looking now at the chat, and I can see that Anne can't hear. So I think that's a case for Chase. A case for Chase. But thank you very much, Chase. You helped a lot on that, and you continue to help. Pop-up submissions now, because everything has been sort of knocked back a bit. I've got some new dates now for pop-up submissions. Today was going to be the first day of 2, and clearly it's not happening now because this is a Litopia Village Hall. So I've got 3 consecutive Sundays in November: the 12th, the 19th, and the 26th. They will be advertised in due course, but I'm letting you know now as a Litopian, because that might be of interest to you. And we will have to restrict the numbers at some point. So if you want to get stuff in early, please do so. There will be a form going live on the website either later today or tomorrow, and that's Litopia. Pop-up submissions. Really enjoyed doing those last time. 3 Sundays instead of 2, November the 12th, 19th and 26th. So what are we going to talk about? Oh yes, that's the Frankfurt Book Fair, Katie. The Buchmesse. Oh yeah, German is intolerable. I don't know how you pronounce it. It is. The website is impenetrable to a curious reader. And it is, I think it's worth going to at least once, actually, Frankfurt Book Fair, because it's by far the biggest in the world. And it does sort of impress you, because you realise that actually the worldwide publishing business is pretty darn big. And also, it's not entirely English. that comes as a surprise to many people. But I think that last time I went, there were about 7 or 8 halls devoted to English language. There's a lot of other halls devoted to non-English, and you suddenly think, oh yeah, there's all that out there too, because we do tend to be a bit parochial. Anyway, we've got some questions to deal with. Thank you very much for these that have been posted in the colony. If you've got any follow-ups or any other quickies that you want to ask, please do right now in the chat room, the Discord chat room. I don't like the name of that. I like everything else about it, but I don't like the name.
No, it's a surprising name.
Yeah, it is really, isn't it? I just want to give you a sort of 5-minute take, I think, because it's a good time now for me to sort of sit back a little bit and just think, where are we and what's going on? What is this business all about? It's an appropriate moment now that Frankfurt's over. And I think, the business is changing. It's a cliche to say this, and I've said it so many times, but it's changing in ways that just a few years ago we couldn't imagine. So I think it is worth just stopping for a moment and considering what it is that we're trying to do, because it's often a moving target. In the past, I think writers have always been very, very focused on getting an agent and then getting a publishing deal, and kind of the rest sort of naturally happens. Today, that's less and less the case. I'm going to have to just concentrate on not looking at the chat room for a moment, and then I will go back to the chat room, otherwise I'll get hopelessly disturbed. If you think about the publishing business, there are 5 parts to it that I can identify. There's the writer, there's the agent, there's the publisher, there's the distributor, otherwise known as Amazon, and then of course there's the reader. And the agent, the publisher and the distributor kind of get in the way in between the writer and the reader, but they are, at the moment, still quite important parts. The writer is often undervalued in that process. And I think it was Philip Pullman just the other day, and he's isn't he chair of the Society of Authors at the moment, he was lamenting, because that's all we can do really, because writers don't have very much in the way of political clout, that he would say that you can't really be a full-time writer anymore, and it won't pay. And certainly the UK figures, and the US figures will be much the same as this, are that a few years ago, average writer's income, and obviously there's a huge sort of, discrepancy between the highest paid and the lowest paid. It averaged out about £25,000 a year. Kind of average wage, really. Now it's half that. Space of 2-3 years, it's declined.
Plummeted, yes.
It's half that. Yeah. Why is that? Mostly because publishers have slashed the advances they pay, and that's got very profound effects in the business. It means that new agents who can't live off their backlist, have to do incredibly well, or have to have their own sources of private finance before they can actually make a living. The sort of deals that that a few years ago would be 6-figure deals are low 5-figure deals now. Yeah. They have really cut their costs, big publishers particularly. And one way is slashing advances that are paid to authors. Now, you can argue about that, and publishers would argue. They would say, well, we just can't continue to pay out advances that are not earned back in terms of royalties. They would say that. But if you think about it, it does mean that their raw material, the stuff that writers produce, is going to move from people who are full-time focused on doing that to people who are not full-time writers, who've got a decent job somewhere else and who write in the evenings and weekends. I think that's a profound change, and obviously publishers are thinking about the bottom line and they have to do that, but it does mean that the entire edifice of writing with a capital W will be done more and more by enthusiastic amateurs. That pros will not be able to do this mostly. I mean, there will always be exceptions, the J.K. Rowling phenomenon, but there will always, but mostly people will not be able to earn a decent wage out of writing.
May I put in a sort of slightly contrary point of view?
Sure.
I mean, weren't people 40 to 60 years ago part-time writers, but they've also become iconic? I'm thinking of Orwell, perhaps. Mm-hmm. Who's the guy who wrote Your Parents Always poem?
Philip Larkin.
Philip Larkin. They did have other work, and the opinion I want to suggest here is that one can be enriched by one's work and write well without being full-time, provided one allows their other life, so to speak, to enrich them.
Yeah, it's an interesting discussion, that. I think it's not a question of is it a good thing to be a full-time writer, or is it a good thing to lead an active life that involves lots of other things and writing.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the discussion at all, because increasingly people won't have the option.
So yes, I see. You're talking really about the business of publishing and the effect it's having on that. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And it means also, as far as agents are concerned, it's going to be incredibly hard to become a new agent, actually.
Yeah.
Unless, you've got 5 years cash in your pocket, or you've got a major, writer client that you can take with you. I think that there are other opportunities, and I think increasingly we have to, I say we, agents and people who are just putting their feet on the first rungs of the writing profession, we have to think much more broadly than we did in the past. Yeah. In the past, it's been a question: get an agent, get a publisher, done. Yeah. And that I can forget about that aspect of the business, and I can just sequester myself away and write to my heart's content, and somebody else will take care of all the business and And I think it's going to be very hard for people to take that approach in the future.
Yes. Yeah.
There are opportunities still. I mean, the internet, funnily enough, is creating new opportunities, particularly for people who write in a niche area. You know, if you are an enthusiast for something, this tends, I think, to be non-fiction. But if you're an enthusiast for something and you can blog to your heart's content about it, I see increasing numbers of blogs that are definitely semi-pro and definitely making money and doing rather well, actually.
Yeah.
Without the benefit of an agent.
Yes.
You know, it's still writing. It's still writing. Mm-hmm. It's just not conventional writing and publishing.
Yes. Do you feel those people are reaching a bigger audience as a result of taking their writing in that direction?
Yes, I think so. I think they are. Because the alternative would be, especially in the non-fiction area, and non-fiction has been totally, absolutely decimated by the internet, no question about that.
Yeah.
The alternative would have been to do a fairly low-value deal for a one-off book that maybe doesn't get very good distribution in any case.
Yes.
You know, and what do you do after that? And the thing about a blog that's kind of special interest is that people do return to it, and you can build up quite a good regular following, really, whether it's politics or things that people collect or fashion or food or lifestyle or buying watches or anything like that. You know, it's all out there actually, and it's all based around writing. So that's, I mean, to me, that's just one example of how writers need to start to think about writing outside of the box. I mean, the other obvious thing that I'm doing like mad at the moment is leveraging the IP. Thinking about games, you know, computer games, console games, thinking about particularly television, because television is having a boom time right now. It really is boom time. And very often, the interesting perception is that it's worth getting a book published and not doing a particularly spectacular deal, but still getting it published by, you know, a respectable publisher, because that then it creates a sort of an event round your book, round your manuscript. It says that a third party, a publisher, has found some value in it, and then you will find that producers prick their ears up and take note and start to think, maybe I should option that. Maybe I should take that to Amazon. You know,
interesting.
So, you know, who knows? We might be moving into the era where books are lost leaders.
Wow,
it's possible. I don't want to talk too much more about that at the moment, because I think it's an area that we continually need to sort of discover for ourselves, and I think Litopia is a very good place to do that. But, you know, certainly big publishing right now is looking after its own interests first. And it used to have many years, well, maybe not that far ago, but certainly back in, you know, in the 20th century, it used to have the approach, quite a paternalistic approach. And they used to say, well, you know, we will give you £10,000 for your first manuscript. We don't really expect to get that back, but we do expect to have your second and your third and your fourth, and by the time you're on your fifth, you'll probably be selling quite well.
So that was when they wanted to discover a writer.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Rather than the manuscript.
Yeah. And publishers still do say that sometimes, but the truth is none of them really can do it, actually. Yeah. They can't. They're so focused on the bottom line.
Yeah.
And, you know, there is still a lot of uncertainty in publishing as to whether I will have my job in 6 months' time.
Oh, goodness.
You know, there is a lot of insecurity in publishing, less than there was two or 3 years ago. 2.5, 3 years ago, there was a lot of bloodletting indeed. And what you've seen now is sort of all the major companies are leaner. They've got fewer people, and they've got younger people. And of course, younger people are cheaper. You know, good or bad. One of the good things is that they're prepared to do things new ways. They're prepared to consider new projects, and they have a rather more positive approach than I have found in other people in generations who are a bit older, actually. So, it swings and roundabouts. Anyway. So Quillwitch is with us. I do hope you can hear something, Quillwitch. I mean, I am going to record this and it will be posted, but it would be nice to know that you're with us as well. And I think you've worked out as something like 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning with you. I'm not sure what that would be. I'm not sure.
I'm thinking Thailand or something.
Thailand, maybe. Possible. Okay, let's get on to some questions now. Rich says Rich has actually posted a question in the colony, but there's also, he said he's a cynic. I can tell he's a cynic, actually. He says, are the pop-up submissions...
Am I allowed to laugh?
Yes! It's nice to hear somebody. Are the pop-up submissions just for fun, or do they ever lead to representation? So are you a born cynic, Rich?
Lots of practice got me there.
I see. You've been around the block. Yeah, they are. Feeding ourselves back here. I'm just going to be at the chat room for a moment. They are serious. The thing about agents, and quite a lot of publishers, but almost all agents actually, is that, unlike Rich, they are actually, or we are all, sort of unremittingly, naively optimistic. Right? Not like you, Rich.
Oh, beneath the thick skin, I'm a tremendous optimist. Right? I wouldn't be here.
Well, you can. I mean, I know. After a certain number of submissions and rejections, or sort of no feedback at all, I know that writers can and do regularly lose heart, actually, because it is a soul-destroying process. Believe me, that's one of the reasons that Litopia exists. But the fact is, I mean, it's funny, really. Agents they try to put over a hard-boiled act quite often. But actually, you can't do your job if you're a hard-boiled cynic, because you have to believe that the next manuscript you look at is going to be the one. You really do have to believe that. And time after time, I find myself sort of checking myself, sort of going, "Well, hold on, just calm down. It's just another manuscript." But my hopes are always really high, and I think it's not just me. I think a lot of agents will privately or publicly admit that they are actually incredibly optimistic, and they do believe, they have hope, they do want to find the next big thing. They really do, because that would make their lives professionally. So yeah, they're absolutely for fun. No, for real and for fun. I enjoy doing them, and I think they serve a purpose, in as much as, why shouldn't we invite the author into the into the meeting that evaluates their manuscript? I can't see why not. I mean, there's been so much sort of weird sort of secrecy in publishing for such a long time, and publishing is this edifice around which accretions have grown and big walls are built, and it hasn't really had a new product development process ever. I mean, all it's ever had really is a very high wall. Try to get your manuscript over that if you can, which doesn't make sense to me at all, especially in this day and age, especially when things change so quickly. You might be spending 2 or 3 years working on something that, with a little bit of feedback earlier on, could either have been diverted in a different way, or somebody would have said, "Look, this isn't going to work. Save your time, do something else." So, yeah, it's very serious. Go ahead.
Yeah, Rich. I took advantage of the pop-up submissions last time, and it can be a stitch-in-time situation. It's like having somebody to find your blind spot.
There we go, Rich. You've got a testimonial. You've got a testimonial from Katie Ellen who did it, and she got a stitch. She got a stitch.
Amazing. Yeah, sometimes it just needs one little thing. You think, aha, and probably save you a lot of false steps thereafter, because everything has to cascade on.
It fills me with joy to hear that. Actually, I got very excited when I discovered Litopia, and I discovered the idea of the pop-up submissions, and as you say, Pete, this idea of kind of laying bare this great secret of how people actually consider manuscripts. I mean, just that made me very excited. So, joking aside about being a cynic, I'm looking forward to this.
Good. Me too. I mean, I loved it last time. We only done it once before. And the next time, I'm really looking forward to it. I hope we don't have too many, because I do find it quite tiring. And I'll have to call it a day after about a dozen, I think. I always found this actually when I was sort of doing submissions on a Friday afternoon, that after maybe 20 or so, I had no judgment anymore. It's funny. I just couldn't tell what was good or what was bad. No.
Yeah, you start to go blind, and the letters start to dance. I teach English, so I kind of when looking at people's written work, I get the same feeling.
Yes. Well, I mean, God, you mean you must have. How many exams do you have to mark at a time? Which is gone.
Sorry, I'm dropping in and out and dropping out.
Yeah.
I don't know if you,
I mean, it's not the same process, but I mean, it must be. It's kind of similar. I mean, if you're marking examination papers, you have to mark hundreds, don't you?
Yeah, well, I teach English to adults, so I'm teaching kind of business people and stuff like that. So the written work tends to be exercises based around report writing and things that business people might find useful. Yes. But the thing is that if you're marking a lot, you're making a quality, you're making a value judgment about what they've written.
Yeah.
So I guess there's the similarity with what you're doing. And sure, if you've got 20 of these things to do, the letters start to swim, and you start to lose your objectivity.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I have a particular way of doing it, which I'm sort of trying to encourage the colony to do as well. And that is, it's very, very straightforward. Actually, it's very straightforward. I mean, I don't look at work in advance. So literally, what I see is what you see is what I'm seeing, and my first reaction is relayed live, and it's not objective; it's quite subjective actually, but very often, because what I try to do is to give you a slice through my brain in real time. Very often what you'll find is you'll be seeing your own work that you've got so close to, inevitably, because you have to, you'll be seeing it through rather different eyes, and that can be quite a revelation. Anyway, won't talk about it anymore. It kicks off November the 19th, November the 12th, 19th and 26th. So I'm going to stay with Rich for a moment. I'm just going to mute the chat room just for a second or two, because Rich has sent in a question that needs some thinking about. And this is what he says. 2 genre writers. Only so many hours in the day. One reads obsessively in their chosen genre, is an expert, a walking encyclopedia of all that's gone before, while the other reads more widely, fiction and non-fiction, classics to pop. So this is Rich's question. All else being equal, in your opinion, which writer has the better chance of producing a commercially viable product? That's quite a question.
Yeah, it took me a while.
yeah, absolutely. What do you think, Peg?
I'm going to go with the second, the latter. The person who reads widely, in my opinion, will have a greater sense, a greater alertness, if you like, to the nuance that's possible in whatever style of writing they wish to address.
Yeah, I tend to think that too.
Yeah, I think there is a time and a place for drilling yourself into, and I find this word really hard to say. I find genre very hard to say.
Genre.
Me too.
Oh, my goodness, who have invented that? Anyway.
I think it was the French, wasn't it?
I think that there is a really good deal to learn from just allocating a month, let's say, to nothing but your genre, and just steaming through it. I know that's irreverent because there's so much material in any genre out there, but to understand people's approach, to understand how people structure their work, to understand the formation of characters. One really needs to drill into that for the area in which you wish to write, but to enhance your own quality of writing and the richness you bring to it, the diversity, and the way that it comes out of you. I think the broader reading is by far the better option.
Okay. I'm just trying to boost the audio here a little bit because some people are saying it's dropping in and out. 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. Okay. Hopefully that's good enough. Anybody wants the feedback? It's breaking up a bit, Katie says. Audio problems. Guys, you may have to rely on the recording of this, I'm afraid. Let me just tweak the settings a little bit and we'll come back to this question because it's a good one. 1 2 1 2. Right, I've turned off automatic game control on Discord. Can you let me know if it's significantly better or worse? Better. Everyone's saying better. Good. So that is how we'll leave it then. Good. Great. Okay. Sorry, I didn't do that like 20 minutes ago. What a nuisance. Never mind. I think the recording will be good if you want to catch up on that. My feeling on this is purely observational, actually. I don't have any sort of doctrinal belief as to what you should do or shouldn't do. It's very hard to make rules as far as this is concerned, because you don't know what the genre is, you don't know the personality concerned. But I would say from watching successful writers, and actually not just writers, watching successful media creators, people like film producers, they tend to expose themselves, and this is a big generalisation, but they do tend to expose themselves to just a lot of different things, and they tend not to be very specialist. And I first realised that, especially as far as producers are concerned, when I was making a real effort to see everything, every new major release, I would absolutely see, because I felt I had to, because I'm doing deals in this area, and I thought, I need to know what people are doing, what they're thinking, what they're saying, what the critics are doing, so get up to speed. So I really did that, as almost every night of the week, and in the various conversations I was then having with really successful producers, people whose films are up every week, I realised actually that they were not up to speed at all. And I'd seen vastly more than they'd seen. And they were just sort of partly leading the life of a producer, which is a very strange life in any case, because it's, when you've got a film happening, it's 24 hours a day, really. And outside of that, they were just sort of being normal people to the extent they could be. I'm sure, and again, I'm sure there are exceptions there. I'm not saying that most successful producers don't have any in-depth knowledge of film. They do, clearly, but they're not the sort of obsessive monomaniacs that I tended to think they might have been.
Yes, yeah.
So that's all I can say is that's just an observation. Yeah. That it tends to be the case, but I don't think there's anything prescriptive I can say about that.
I wonder if they went through a phase of being specialists, perhaps in their early
Quite
days,
possible.
where they had to do that in order to learn the sort of language of film and the toolkit needed to become successful in it.
I think that's quite possible. But just coming back to authors again, I mean, I think there is an issue here with cross-contamination. So if you are an author working, say, in the horror genre, and you're also reading a heck of a lot of horror, how do you stop that reading from seeping into your own work?
Well, that would fill me with horror. I would. If someone said it was derivative, I'd cringe.
Yeah.
Of course, I mean, that's not altogether a bad description of another person's writing, but I think that the idea of diversity in one's own pursuits keeps the fresh air moving through your writing.
Yes. Yeah, I think so.
I find this exactly what you've just said, Peggy, that when I read a lot in one genre, I suddenly find that I sound like other writers.
Yes.
And when I read widely, I feel more like it's my own voice.
Good. Yeah.
So your answer has been music to my ears.
Oh, fantastic. Great.
Good. Excellent. Got a question from Jeff, who is there. Yeah. Hi, Jeff. Nice to talk to you again. Jeff used to be, I think, in Switzerland. Not sure if he is now. If you've got the audio on, Jeff, say hi. If you haven't, just wave. Jeff says, I have a question around the world of writers' circles. Do you think they're creative hothouses or just an excuse for coffee and a chat? I don't have a sort of a doctrinaire view on this, but I tend to find through observation from talking to writers that this is something that people tend to move through. And I think there's an awful lot of self-esteem and self-confidence involved in the art of writing. And so many writers have said to me, it's only after my third, fourth, fifth published book that I actually felt I could legitimately call myself a writer. And until then, I felt I was a bit of a fraud. Still trying. Oh, I got lucky with that one, didn't I? That it does take a long time to seep in for people to assume a certain degree of confidence. And actually, confidence is really important. How you approach the act of writing is incredibly important, because the reader wants to feel they're in very confident hands. And if you're diffident, and if you lack confidence in the way that you're approaching the writing process, then it's very likely that will actually subconsciously filter through to the reader, and the reader will feel, I don't know. The reader always likes to feel in strong, confident hands.
They do, like a baby.
Yeah.
They like to...
So it's quite possible that a writing group, writing circle can help you to take the first steps. Psychologically, if nothing else, if it doesn't help you in any other way, just going along, sort of saying, well, okay, you're a writer. I am too. I must be. I'm at a writers' group. I think that can be actually of some considerable help in preparing you for the challenge ahead. Can it take you any further than that? I think, like all sort of groups where there are human dynamics at work, and you've always got a little bit of green eye. I think there is the danger that you're going to get a bad experience as well as a good. And the only thing I can personally think of here is a sort of writers group that I went along to a long time ago, and it was after my very first book had been published, and as you know, it was #1 bestseller. And this was a group of food writers, actually. And there's only about half a dozen of them, but they were reasonably well known. And for some bizarre reason, I don't know why they did this, I thought it was a stupid thing to do, but at the beginning of the meeting, the guy sort of leading it informally said, right, let's go round the room, it's only about 6 people, and introduce yourselves, and so we've done, and say what your sales are.
Oh.
Why would you do that?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just inviting envy and jealousy and bad feeling. So I was the last person to speak up, and I was cringing. I was thinking, oh God, this is going to be horrible for everybody else, really, because it sounds as I'm saying, just published this book and it sold 1,500 copies and so on. So the next person died, sold 5,000 of mine. And Peter Cox have just written this book called Why You Don't Need Me. It's 6 weeks, so we sold 100,000 copies. I could have been killed.
Roasted for dinner.
Yeah. The looks I got.
Yeah.
And I just thought, what a stupid thing to do. Really.
I think the ideal with writers meeting up like that is if you find someone who enjoys using language as much as you do, or who enjoys observation as much as you do, then perhaps you have potential for a long-term quasi-business-like friendship.
Yeah, maybe actually.
That would be
quite likely.
Yeah.
Yes. I would never discourage anybody from going along.
No,
actually, but I have discouraged writers. I actively have done so very recently from continuing to go to a writers' group once its purpose has been fulfilled. And there's one particular case I can think of that's actually quite recent, where the writer concerned is working with what I'd call a big concept idea. And it's a no-brainer sort of, they've come up with something quite original, but it's a desperately easy concept or idea to steal. And unless, those sorts of things are nightmares, really, because, unless the whole thing is really strongly expressed and powerfully marketed, just sort of trickling out an idea, you're giving stuff away.
Yes.
You're giving stuff away. It's a nightmare, actually.
Yeah.
So I think you have to be very careful of that specific instance where you're dealing with the big concepts of Hollywood tentpole movie type thing. Heaven's sake, don't take it along to the local pub and start talking about it. Not a good idea.
Was it Jeff who asked that question?
Jeff, Jeff can hear, but he can't say anything.
Okay, again, this is just my point of view, but I would personally find joining a readers group of more value in the longer term. I think, Peter, you're right about the joining a writers group for a specific purpose and a period of time. But in the longer term, understanding what readers are enjoying and getting the variety that's common in a readers group might be of more value.
Maybe. Thank you, Jeff, for that. So Quillwitch says, I don't think this is a question, it's a complaint. Quillwitch says, oh, come on. 6 p.m. UK time is like 1 a.m. for me, and I have to be up at 6 a.m. I don't think I'll be able to make it. But Quillwitch is there still, actually. She's muted her mic, but she's there. So it's like, it's 10 to 2 in the morning, and she's got to get up at 6. Any advice?
We've all been there.
It's true. She's going to have an interesting start to the week, isn't she?
Yeah.
That's it. Bless you, Coolwich. So here's another one. This is a very current thing. Novel Writing Fest. Hey. Novel Writing Fest. $35, send your first chapter. $170, your entire novel. Novel showcased in 2016. 36 novels performed. 2 novels made into a movie. What does that mean? Is that 2 different novels made into one movie? I don't know. Plus 8 poems made into a movie. And 69 short stories read. 115 total works made in 2016. Get full feedback on either the first chapter or entire novel from our committee of professional writers and writing consultants. Get your novel performed by a professional actor at the festival. New option. Blah, blah, blah. Lots of PayPal buttons. Send us your money, basically. But if you read this, it's like everything a writer's ever wanted, actually. You can also get your stuff published, a great way to get your words out there. Obtain the agent you're looking for, or just get your story seen by more people. Blah, 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 blah. If you win, your story will be seen by hundreds of thousands of people when it's read online using a top professional actor. God. What do I think of that? So, obviously I'm very suspicious. I've looked at this thing. Look at it now. It's on Twitter. they have 130,000 followers.
Oh.
These people. So, you know, I mean, it's big. Looking at the website. Let me just see if I can get this on the screen for you. There we go. Yeah, Novel Writing Festival, there you go. Okay, whenever I look at things like this, I want to know who they are to begin with. Right, so I've got a huge great menu at the top there. About, that seems reasonable. I want to know the names, I want to know where they are, I want to know who's backing them, I want to know their track record. So I click on About. What happens? Here we go, About. Audio gone. I don't know.
Again.
I can hear you. Well, I haven't made any changes at all. So I'm a bit mystified as to why the audio's gone. I'm just going to carry on, and I think if you have to listen to the recording, then so be it. But it would be nice if... Oh, it's back. Rich says cutting out and says it's back. You know what? I don't know if this is... I mean, I've got to say, I think this is Discord, actually. I think... I don't know if there's any other settings I can change here. Let's see. One, two, 1, 2. I don't know what else I can do on this. I mean, I'll just have to put my head together with Chase, who's the Discord maven, and see if it's possible to make this slightly more reliable. Because you don't want to be messing around like this and answering serious questions at the same time. The way we do this, of course, on pop-up submissions is basically we don't have any feedback. It's just one live Facebook Live video. And people can come along for the ride, but they can't ask questions, which is just the same as any other submission, really, because you wouldn't be able to wander into an agent's office and sort of say, "Well, why are you saying that then?" So that's fine, but for village hall meetings, obviously we do want to talk to people. So I'm going to have to talk to Chase during the week about this and see if we can normalise things a bit. Anyway, as I say, so I want things like this. The first thing I do is I want to see who is this. So you click on the About and it doesn't tell you, actually. I mean, I've got some videos there. I've never heard of any of these. And that's it. Well, that does not inspire confidence in me. And then right at the bottom, I don't know if you can see, it says blog at wordpress.com. So it's probably a free bleeding site. It doesn't look particularly good. They've got lots and lots of winners from all over the place. So I'm guessing they're making a fortune, actually. You do a little bit more inquiring. What I do is I played one of these videos, and at the end of it did not say novelwritingfestival.com. It said Wild Sound Festival, something completely different. So Google that. Wild Sound Writing and Film Festival. Very similar. Look at the website. There's an About thing here. A little bit more information. It's in Toronto. That's quite useful to know where this festival is being held. Again, it's a WordPress thing. They haven't splashed out on this. And finally I came up with, I think, this character called Matthew Toffolayo. I think he has a lot to do with it. Excuse me. So you pay us your money, and you take your choice. Is it going to be the answer to your publishing prayers? I don't think it is, really. It's $170 your entire novel. I mean, what are you going to get out of it, really?
You protect it.
You what? Say again, Katie.
And how would you protect it?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a good question. I mean, just, you know, it's a bit depressing, really, because I'm not going to go full because they've got lots and lots of people here who obviously paid them money, and I'm not going to. I just don't know enough about it to say that it's a con or not. I don't like it. I don't recognise anything here that's emerged into the publishing scene. Maybe there is, but honestly, if there was something big, why didn't they put that on the front page? Thing is, a long time ago, actually, so long ago that I don't think this was even an internet thing. It might have been, but I don't think it was. I did know someone, an American, who ran something kind of like this, and it kind of fell into a funny sort of no man's land, really, because on the one hand you've got totally legit publishing. On the other end of the scale, you've got absolute criminal vanity press outfits that rip off authors, often to the tune of tens of thousands. In between, you've got this funny area, actually. This funny kind of grey area, which, you know, does cost you something, and you probably don't get much out of it, but it's not criminal. So, I don't know what to say about it. I knew some guy who did this, and he used to charge, I think, $50 or so to enter his, quote, festival. And what happened was that he used to give them to his young cousin, I think, who was about 16 or 17 years old. And you get hundreds of these things sent in, and you bank the money. And then he bung off all this enormous amounts of reading to this poor young sod, who would get through things and sort of say, well, I think that's good, and that's the winner. And fine. So it was kind of, you know, something that you could say, I entered that and I came third place, but it's not the Booker Prize. it's just, you know, you think, is this really how you should spend your time and money, actually? I don't know. I discourage it because, you know, apart from a little bit of ego gratification, on a practical basis, you get a submission from someone and they say, yeah, this is who I am and I won such and such. And you think, okay, well, I haven't heard of that. Should I have heard of it? And you Google it and nothing substantial comes up. And it leaves a rather a negative impression. Actually, you think, you've just tried to con me. You know, you've just tried to persuade me you won a significant writing festival or a competition. And it's not significant at all. You just paid for it. So I think very often, if you think you're going to give yourself some kudos, you're not actually. You're not going to, you know, you're not going to get taken very seriously. That's my feeling. But I don't know. What did you think, Katie Allen? Katie? We're not getting Katie. Okay, well, I'm guessing that she is having crackly audio. One or two people are. It's funny, isn't it? Because we heard really, really good quality from Rich. How awful. I mean, a lot of people now complaining about the crackly audio. We have a really fast internet connection here. It's 1 gigabyte. I honestly don't think it's our connection. It may be there's a bottleneck further down the line, which is really, really too bad. And I think before the next one, we're going to have to get this totally sorted out. I'm just going to go to the last question that was posted in the colony by Katie Allen, actually, and then we'll see if oh dear, I'm so sorry. We'll see then if anyone live wants to fire in anything, if they can hear. Okay, so Katie Allen says, suppose, you have to follow this quite carefully, suppose a famous published novelist suggested you approach a particular agent based on a draft which has been revised subsequently, though staying true to the original genre market. Basically, she wants to know...
I'm back again, I think.
She wants to know if that's ethical. Hello, Katie Allen.
Hello, am I back again?
Yes, I can hear you quite well. I'm sorry it's so crackly for you.
Yes, I'm sorry, I don't know what happened there. Yeah, I could hear you.
Yeah, but it's just crackly, huh? And she's gone.
No, I can... It's in and out.
Okay, well, Chase and I will put our heads together and see if there's anything to be done to improve this. So I'm just going
to... Boundary and Caddish.
Yes, Caddish and Boundarish. Yes, of course you've got to mention this. Absolutely. Is this just a completely hypothetical, Katie, or is this something that actually is kind of
it has come up before. I also give a particular example.
Yeah.
Mouth things. I would never ask an author to look at any of my work. Plugging them, you know. That's any kind of conference. But some kind of person did that on my behalf, and this author looked at the draft and said, I think to try, and she named the agent.
Yeah. Okay.
Like it. Yeah.
Well, that's, I think that's...
But I no such thing, because more work needed doing.
Cool, which says, nice, the mic likes you. That is Katie Allen's voice. We kind of heard most of that, but we were cutting in and out too, actually. So I've got the feeling that it's Discord who's taking us around. Unfortunate. I'm going to post this in the colony as soon as we finish talking, so that people can sort of fill in the missing gaps here. This is terribly important. This is how you get an agent. It's one of the ways. So don't worry about being caddish and boundarish. Don't worry about the ethics of things, because you're dealing with agents. They don't worry about ethics. They like to do deals, my dear. They do deals.
Okay.
Only thing is, if the published novelist, famous published novelist, ideally, what you're looking for is a recommendation from famous published novelist to their agent. That's what you're looking for, to their agent. Because I can guarantee you, unless the agent wants to commit professional suicide, their agent will give your manuscript their very best immediate attention. They will. If that's a significant client. If a significant client says, look, I've just read this by so-and-so, I think it's really good, I want you to look at it. That agent will look at it straight away. It'll get first-class treatment. No question about that. Now, if it's a famous published novelist not recommending their own agent, maybe because their own agent is 90 years old and doddering and infirm or not specialising in the genre that your manuscript is, okay, it still will carry some clout with another agent, but it won't be so much. Simple as that. Because the other agent will automatically think, hold on, I don't represent famous published novelist. Somebody else does. So, why are they sending me a client? So I think in the covering note you should probably explain that, because that will be the first thing they will think of. Well, why is that person talking about me? It's kind of flattering, actually, for a famous published novelist to be talking about some other agent, but I think that the context has to be explained in the covering letter. If it's not, then it won't have such strong impact. But potentially, this is a very good way to get an agent.
Don may still be the author's agent, but move to another agency in between.
Yes. Well, I think we probably guess who you're talking about. Possibly. You've given quite a lot of specific information there. I think it's a great idea. This is a terrific way of getting an agent. If you happen to know or you get to know, actually. Even if you don't, I tell you, something that really does work very well is when you get an approach from somebody who has bothered to do a little bit of work. And if, every agent has their big name client, right? So somebody's just flushed. It sounded like a flush. I don't think it was. If it was a flush, it means that we're being listened to in the smallest room in the house. Do you think? What's your take on that?
Well, it wasn't me.
Okay.
Turning that situation round a minute. I don't know if I'm clear enough.
Yeah, you are.
Clear enough to other writers, but publishers also get writers poached from them, don't they? Sometimes. There's a novel called The Loney by Andrew Michael Hurley. I think he came out of a master's creative course, maybe in Lancaster, and he was published with a small independent press called Tartarus in 2014. Then in 2016, the same novel was published again by Hodder and Staunton.
Yeah.
Isn't that a bit of a bummer for the smaller independent press that took the first chance with the novel?
Yes, it is. Yes, and it is a difficult situation. It's something that I've had experience of, and you try to do the best for all concerned. Actually, that's all I can say. You try to do the best, and I think it can be a complicated situation. If it's a question of the same novel being first of all published by a small press and then being picked up by a bigger publisher, it's quite possible that there's been a deal done between the two publishers. It's quite possible that there's been a sub-license deal. That happens. So if that's the case, then actually the first publisher is still making some money off the work of the second publisher. And so that's...
You hope so, wouldn't you? Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. But more often what happens is that the really small press, it kind of fills the role that I was talking about a few minutes ago of the sort of the incubator. The publisher who spends not necessarily very much money, because none of them have that much money, but lots of time and lots of passion and enthusiasm, developing an author up, only to see, their really big commercial book get seized by a major publisher. And that can be very frustrating for the smaller press. It can also, it's not without its risks as well for the author concerned, and you need to look at the situation very carefully and have some good business advice from your agent, hopefully, because if it doesn't work, then that author that's been plucked from a smaller publisher can suddenly find themselves completely unpublishable. So it can backfire. Actually, it can backfire, and it just needs it's a symptom of the way the business is these days. Almost everything needs very careful thinking about, and in years gone by this wasn't the case. It was like a sausage machine. You're taking the manuscripts, you're sending them out, doing the deals, move on to the next one. But it's not like that now. You have to think much more carefully, much more broadly, and you're kind of playing chess. It's not just about that one manuscript, it's about everything that the author has done and is going to do. It's much more complicated, and smaller presses are still really the lifeblood of the business, and I always try to give them a very fair crack of the whip, actually, because what smaller presses lack in terms of financial clout, they don't always, but they can make up in terms of passion and commitment. And you do see this happen quite frequently, actually, that the sheer passion that a publisher has for a manuscript, for an author hopefully, but certainly for a manuscript, results in that publisher punching far above their weight in terms of the big prizes, the bookers of this world. It's not unusual for a small press to do really well, in the bookers. Why is that? Because they've got good instinct, they can take a risk the bigger publisher couldn't take, and also the sheer fiery passion that comes out of usually the owner, proprietor, editor, publisher, you name it, is infectious. And if you can get, I'm one of the crucial ingredients to a good deal. It's obviously not talking about money, contractual, blah, blah, blah. But you're also talking about someone's got a touch of diarrhea, I think. So I just
noticed recently that small publishers in the north are getting together.
Yeah.
And we call a publishing northern powerhouse.
Yes, very interesting. I think it's great, and I would, some agents I think take a very narrow view of this, like, no, how much are you offering? And on that basis, a small press will never be able to compete. But especially at the beginning of an author's career, I would be very interested in exploring options with a smaller press. But what I'd be looking for would be, I'd be looking at enormous amounts of passion and commitment. I would want a route. I would want them to outline to me in marketing terms, and probably make that part of the contract, actually. I want a route to success. I want to know how they're going to do it. Not just, we love this, we love this. Okay, you love it. How are you going to build that into a success? And if they can answer that, then I think I would consider them to be a contender, actually.